Welcome to Indie Journal in Focus. I'm Prajakta, and today we have with us renowned environmentalist Dr. Claude Alvares. Welcome, sir. Dr. Alvares is a very well known in Goa's environmental, social, political circles. He is the director of Goa Foundation, the organization that has been instrumental in several key discussions and decisions related to environmental issues in Goa. One of the most important ones being mining. And mining is also one of the most talked about issues in Goa Elections 2022. We can see almost all the political parties fielding this issue as one of the major issues, one of the major change that they want to bring about in Goa if they come to power. So I think we should start our discussion with the issue of mining, considering how important and how instrumental Goa Foundation was in pointing out the impact of mining that occurred in Goa and which led to the stringent measures against mining in the state a decade ago. So, sir, this whole narrative that all the political parties and their candidates are fielding that if they come to power, they'll start mining as soon as within 6 months. So, what are the technicalities behind it? Is it even possible?
See, the mining lobbies, that is those who have been benefiting from mining for all these years, making a lot of money out of it, they have got always a very good campaign agenda which they are able to implement very successfully. And one of the main things that they are able to do successfully is to convince a lot of people, not just in Goa but outside, that there are large numbers of people who are dependent on mining. And because of that, a large number of people are going to be concerned with the mining vote. Now, this is not exactly true. The number of people who are formally employed in mining, even according to figures given in the Lok Sabha, is not more than 4,000. But there are a lot of other people like truck drivers and so on who are definitely involved. But even that would not come to more than 30,000, 20,000, 30,000 people. And if you look at the people, most of them at that time were all contract labor. They have all gone back to Orissa or to Jharkhand or whatever it is. So the actual number of voters who might make a difference on a mining issue is relatively very small, in our opinion. The second major factor that is to be kept in mind is that all the parties who actually were affected by the closure of mining operations, like the truck owners and so on, they have lost all faith in the government system. Because, if you take the present setup, that is the BJP government, now the BJP government has been in power from 2012. The mining was shut down by the Supreme Court in October 2012. Parikar came to power in March 2012. So they have been sort of facing this situation from 2012 to 2014. 2015, finally the Supreme Court allowed them to start. And again the Supreme Court closed them in another 2.5 years. So during this entire period, the state, the decisions relating to mining have been in the hands of the BJP. The second thing is that the state BJP is paralleled by central BJP, because the central government is also in the hands of the BJP. Now, if you look at this situation, you would think that if the state government, together with the central government, is unable to start mining legally, despite having the entire state at their control and entire central legislation at their control and so on, now from 2012 to 2022, then everybody should acknowledge that there is a serious problem. It may be a problem of law, it may be a problem of Supreme Court's orders, it may be other problems, but the fact is that if mining could have been started with the state government under BJP control and the central government under BJP control, then it ought to have started fairly soon. The second judgment came in February 2018, closing them down permanently. But the judgment said that please do things properly and start mining as soon as possible. So now we have 4 years now. In February we are going to be 4 years since the second closure of mining. So there is something seriously wrong. Now, if you take the Congress party which comes to power, suppose they do come to power, the Congress party will be heading a state government, but the central government will be still under the BJP. Which means the central government will make it as difficult as possible for the state government to start mining. because they want this issue to be, the initiative to be kept with them. And this is exactly what happened in 2012. In 2012, the central government was in the hands of the Congress. Jayanti Natarajan was the environment minister, and the state government was in the hands of Parrikar. So Parrikar made the foolish decision to close down mining on the 10th of September, and 4 days later, Natarajan took the initiative out of his hands by suspending all the environment clearances. And then she refused to release them because she wanted to make her, killing, and he wanted to make his killing. But in the end, because of the rivalries of the two governments, things couldn't work. So this is the same situation today. If you look at Aam Aadmi, you look at TMC, all these would be considered as opposition parties. If they come to power, they'll have a very difficult time to restart mining, because the crux of the matter would be the environment clearances, and they would have to be given from Delhi. They are fully under the control of the Prime Minister's office. The environment minister is of no use, as everybody knows, whether it was Javadekar or the present person, incumbent. So you can be very sure that nothing will move if that happens. And if the BJP comes back to power, well, the very fact is that they have not been able to do anything for 4 years on the second time, forget about 3 years in the first time, then you know that the situation is really very bleak. And whatever the politicians are telling you is fundamentally the same as what all politicians do at the time of election: promise the earth when they know they can't deliver.
So the whole narrative around mining now is that it is the biggest employment generator in Goa, or it is the biggest revenue generator, and you just said that is not true, it's a narrative. But we have seen this not just in Goa but in several other states, that when mining comes and the pollution that it brings, or the whole system that it brings with it, so it happens to kill the local sources of income, the local modes of livelihood in those areas. Has that happened in Goa as well?
Oh, more than in any other place. I mean, the mining, everybody knows, has devastated the environment, the rivers, the fields, the forest areas, the water sources. I mean, if you go to the mining areas, you can see it looks like the surface of the moon, mostly craters and so on. So, but if you look at the problem today with the elections, the only issue is restart mining. Nobody is raising an issue about recovery of all the amounts that are due from illegal mining. There is an SIT, a special investigation team, which has been investigating mining from 2014, actually 2012. Till today, not a single case. It's called an SIT, so they are really sitting all this time. They have done nothing. There are recoveries to be done pursuant to Supreme Court orders that are not being carried out. And all the environmental issues, not a single person in the political spectrum has mentioned anything about restoring the environment, rehabilitation of the environment over the last 20 years of mining, seeing that people in the mining areas get back their resources, get back their fields. I mean, we have had to struggle with the High Court to get villages cleaned out of mining silt. And the first case was the Shergaon mine, where the government and the mining companies had to spend 4 crores to restore 80 hectares of paddy fields, which was done. This is by March they will complete. Last year they had done half, this year they will do the other half. But if you go to all the mining areas, this is the same situation. And people have given up hope. They said there's never going to, they don't want mining. If you take your camera team to Bishoni, to Usgaon, Pali, and talk to ordinary villages, they don't want mining to come because they've had now 3 to 4 years of peace. No trucks running like insane people across the road. Children can walk on the roads and play in their villages without having too much of problems and so on. So there's a lot of contentment that mining has not restarted, because everybody knows that if it restarts, there's just not going to be any controls at all, because there is no government. The government machinery has totally failed in doing anything significant.
But with the tourism sector being hit really bad during the 2 years of pandemic, what are the alternative options that the Goans have at the moment? I mean, there are promises that will bring more industry, will bring more jobs, but what are the alternative options right now?
See, the COVID situation has killed tourism all over the world. It is not just that it has killed it only in Goa. It has killed it in Delhi, it has killed it in all the Taj Mahal, everything everything's earnings are down. So there's nothing that can be done about it because it's an unfortunate situation. And the big difference between that and mining is that something could have been done for mining, but the state government has not been able to come up with the proper plans to restart it. But in the case of COVID, whatever the discussion about the COVID pandemic, whether it is real or whether it's engineered or whatever it is, the fact is that it's a different type of an assault because it's an assault on everything. Forget about economy, jobs. It has jammed the judicial system. It has jammed the schools, it has jammed the education system, it has jammed everything. So, I mean, it's not something special that you can say that, oh, because of that tourism is down, so how do people make a living? Everybody, in a time of a pandemic, everybody suffers. Except, of course, Adani. Adani doesn't suffer. He becomes the richest man in 8 years. But the rest of the country is suffering. Even people who are producing cars are suffering. Even people who are running thermal power plants are suffering. Everybody is suffering. So okay, we learn how to get down. This is a war situation. We sort of get back, and the people of this country are amazing when it comes to getting back, because they are 90% of the population of this country is, in any case, in the informal sector. They are self-employed. They know how to use resources. They work very cheaply. They don't require these, like these big corporates, which spend more money on their suits and ties, than on producing machinery for people to work with. They work at very low scale, and they can. If the economy rebounds, it will be only because of them. And they have a tendency of using more of their labor power rather than their capital, and so on. So the economy will revive. I don't think that there is any difficulty that it will revive. I mean, I can see that a lot of things in Goa are reviving, all at this small scale, and that is a hopeful sign. We have to give it time, because it is, like when a cyclone hits or a hurricane hits, you have a lot of damage, a lot of people suffer, but then you sort of recover, you get back, and I think that in a year or two, things will be back to normal in many ways.
Along with mining, another major important issue this time, which had the potential to impact the elections, was the whole Save Mollem movement, the 3 projects that were approved, that were cleared by the central government in the middle of the pandemic, when the hearings about it were virtual, there were no public meetings about it. The way it was cleared, it also enraged people, there were movements, there were protests against it. So how much importance or how much impact do you think that holds for Goa's election, for Goa's politics this time?
I don't think that will be very significant in many ways, because the Mole issue is, in many ways it's a very distant issue. It's like, in many ways mining has got a lot more people involved compared to Mole. Mole is a small village. Mole and Kole and Sangot, there are 3 small villages there. And whatever was the agitation about was basically the projects going through the wildlife sanctuary. And most people are not concerned with the wildlife sanctuary because they can't do very much in it. So, but that was a movement that was started by all the youngsters, by the younger generation, because it sort of, ignited them. It is not created by us. It was created by a separate movement of artists and youngsters and anthropologists and wildlife guys and everything. So it's amazing how that movement took up. So because it became very high profile in many ways, it came on all the TV sets, and there were huge Twitter campaigns and whatever you call it. Therefore, it appears to be a huge issue in terms of the number of people who will be affected. But I don't think that is the consideration. I don't think, even in Vasco, if you go, where there is the related campaign of the stopping the coal coming into Goa, there too the city of Vasco is sort of divided, because the MPT, which is the main agency for enabling the coal to come into the port, has got more than 5,500 people employed, and they keep them in employment as a sort of a reserve force, because they know that if they remove them, because they don't have any justification right now, because all the the berths have been given to Adani, to JSW, to Vedanta and all these fellows. And they have got their own people. So if you're privatizing the port, then you've got a backlog of 5,500 employees who are totally redundant, but you're not releasing them, because if you release them, they'll join the anti-empty force. But right now they are living in the city, they're collecting their pay, their pension, whatever it is. So they are, the ones who are not coming out openly against the empty, because in India, if you come out, if you are in government or even if you are a private company, your employer will sit on your head if you participate in an agitation against what he is doing or whatever it is. So that's very clear. So there is also a division there, because we have had coal campaigns. Still the entire city doesn't come out. Though the entire city is suffering from coal, they don't come out because they have substantial portion who are employed in that. So if you look at it, how much it will convert, I don't really think realistically how much it will convert into votes. So the Congress party has come out saying that we are against the projects. The TMC has come out. Congress has taken a consistent stand. They have written to the Prime Minister earlier, to the Environment Minister, saying no more coal in Goa. This was when Digambar Kamath was Chief Minister in 2012. Then Parrikar also said the same thing. He also said no coal, we don't want this coal here and all that. Two Chief Ministers have written. Because at any time these agitations have a tendency to come up, like the agitation when they against the second track, which is related to coal. And then you have these TV pictures of people, all sitting on the tracks in the night and all. Those are very powerful images, and they tend to get around. But if you look at it, the railway track goes across several constituencies, and each constituency will have only a small portion affected by the railway track. So then votes are not necessarily going to get converted, because the constituencies are much larger than just the railway track. And Vasco has got at least 3 or 4, I think, seats or whatever it is. So there's, it's not going to be very significant. But what is most significant is, which none of the politicians are really tackling, is the condition of governance. For example, governance has gone to hell. There's nothing that works. You go to the panchayat, you go to the deputy collector, you go to the mamlatdar, you go to any place. It's all reeking with corruption, and people are just fed up. And I'm talking about this, though I don't face corruption. If I go to a government office, nobody is going to, I'm a little bit jealous that all my entire neighborhood, they've got 3,000 from somebody, 5,000 from somebody, they got a cake from somebody, a tea kettle from somebody, but nothing comes to our house. But anyway, that is a separate issue. But the fact is, for the common people, every institution is screwed up, whether it's the Pollution Control Board or Goa Coastal Zone Management Authority, the Chief Inspector of Factories, the Department of Mines, they are still so crooked in everything that they do, that you see that there is nothing at the end of that tunnel. And these issues which affect people on a day, like the potholes on the roads, after the monsoon, every road in Goa had potholes in them. And it was merciless, to rain, heavy rain in the middle of the night, sometimes no power, you get into khaddas and all that sort of thing. It was a terrible situation. Never thought that Goa would, end up with this type of a situation where there is really no governance, what the name. Maybe it's the experience also in Maharashtra, in West Bengal or whatever. I do not know, because I don't live there. But in this place, we have seen it steadily coming down, and now really nothing moves. And I think for common people, that is what makes an impact. I mean, for these people, widows who used to get some allowance of 1,500 for a month, that has stopped. Women who used to get something, that has stopped. Young girls on marriage who would get some 1 lakh as a dowry from the government, that has stopped. There's no money. The economy is indebted to 24,000 crores, which is the highest rate of indebtedness per citizen in the entire country. I mean, Goans have that type of a load. It's more than 1 lakh per person. Now, how do people deal with this? And none of the candidates is willing to deal with these issues. They don't want bread and butter issues anymore. They don't want it. Our power system has been tragic for the last 20 years. Nothing is done. Every minister comes and says that if we do these investments, things will improve, but nothing is done. There's no money. There's no prioritization of where the money will go. And if there is available any money, it is salted away by all these politicians. And if you take, for example, a simple thing right now, which is the sand mining that is taking place. Now, mining is closed down. Sand mining continues in the state of Goa, just like in the Punjab. It is in Punjab. It is in the constituency of the chief minister. In Goa, the maximum illegal sand mining is taking place in the constituency of Dr. Pramod Sawant. Very clear. I have filed 2 contempt petitions in the High Court. The first one, they passed some orders and then the court said, okay, now things are good. The second one, we filed again in desperation, nothing. The police is taking money, the captain of ports is taking money, the director of mines is taking money. Everybody is taking money, nobody wants. So the result is that instead of getting sand for construction of your house at 500 rupees per cubic meter, we are paying 3,000 rupees per cubic meter. This is the result of corruption. And nobody is saying anything about this. Nobody is saying anything. Nobody wants to touch sand mining. Nobody wants to touch any of these problems. They all want to talk about giving doles of 6,000 rupees a month and all. I am saying if the state is indebted to 24,000 crores and every year, every month, government of Goa issues these security advertisements, this for the security bonds. Every time it is 100 crores. It's a very easy way of them. They go around, they issue a notification, people put in their money, they get the 100 crores, they use it to pay their salaries. There are orders issued by the finance department that no money can be spent on any development project. First they used to issue it in January, now they are issuing it in October. So there is no money. This is what is hitting people the most. That everything that would really be of concern to the ordinary person of the state, that's not in the radar of these guys. And that is the most tragic aspect of this petition. They are fighting over everything. They have innovated on the Anti-Defection Act by doing defection now before they are even elected. Before they are elected, they are already defecting from party to party, this way, that way and all that. And they are only interested, as I said, in this circus. And they think that the public, but if you go and ask anybody in the street, they will respond only with total disgust at all the candidates that have come up. Not one of them appear to be sincere. They only are the category of those who just dust their shelves every 5 years to say that now election has come, let us clean the office up and start the promises all over again. And maybe by some chance, because of some division of votes or something, I may get elected as an MLA and then I can do my business activity. That's all that is the situation at the moment.
Coming back to environment again, the way we see center's approach to handling environmental related issues, the way they handle clearances, the way they blatantly ignore environmental clearances to push their projects and everything we see happening, we have seen the beginning of it in Goa also. So considering the vulnerability of our coast, considering how the forest areas are reducing, do you think the center, and if BJP comes to power here again, or no matter what party comes to power here, how much of a threat do we have in future, do we foresee for Goa's environment, for Goa's environmental harmony?
Well, the BJP government has fundamentally altered the environment regime in as far as the central laws are concerned. Most of these laws are central laws, Forest Conservation Act, Environment Protection Act. So they have done fundamental damage to the structure of the laws, including the Mines and Minerals Development Regulation Act, which concerns mining. They have done a lot of changes which will take years to undo. And it's rather shameful that these changes which they have brought, drastic changes which they have brought to these laws, are actually associated with a Hindutva group. I mean, normally everybody knows popular Hinduism, as we know, deeply respects nature. If you look at everything, even the older scriptures, Rama and Mahabharata, everything is filled with nature. To find a group today promoting Hindutva, damaging nature in such a fundamental way, is something that we would not believe ever could have happened. Now you say the beaches are eroding. I don't think Amit Shah is bothered about whether beaches are, they are only counting the money They are only counting the amount that they are accumulating, the power that they are accumulating. Adani is busy accumulating his money and so on. So they are businessmen. They are businessmen who have ended up now being close to a charismatic figure who will do whatever is required so that he is kept in power, till maybe after he dies they will probably rule through statue or something like that. I don't know. But the fact is, they are businessmen. I don't think they care a damn about Forest Conservation Act or Environment Protection Act or the beaches or the wildlife of this country. Wildlife, I moved the High Court, Supreme Court against the Standing Committee of the National Wildlife Board. From 2014, since Mr. Modi has come into power till 2020, they have approved projects in more than 600 wildlife sanctuaries. This has never happened before. Now, I've challenged it all in the Supreme Court and I asked the Supreme Court to do something about it. Otherwise, we'll have no wildlife sanctuaries. But I think a wildlife sanctuary doesn't mean anything to any of them. And I think that they have damaged the Environment Ministry itself in such a significant way that ministry is not going to be able to protect the environment for a long time. It's only public which will do so. The public that was able to fight for the Ere colony, and the public that comes out against mines in Uttarakhand and the tribal communities and everywhere, like the public here which comes against coal. These are the people who will ensure that somehow or the other there is some relief on the environment front. But as far as the government is concerned, Government of India, BJP governments, any other governments, their priority is low. I don't know whether we can have any hope on the Congress government coming back and if they will have a better environment policy. I mean, they have abused the public of their worth for so many years now with their inability to take decisions, that it will take many years before the public is convinced that they are going to do anything serious for the country, for its economy and ecology. It will take many years. And other players are really not in the reckoning at all. But as far as the BJP is concerned, bye-bye. Bye-bye.
I think on this note we can end today's discussion, that in the end it's in the hand of the public to decide what they stand for, to decide what they want to fight for, and who they want to consider as their leaders or who they want to put their faith in to fight for that cause. So I think we can stop on that note. Thank you so much, sir, for giving us your time today. We have been in Goa for last few days. We have been covering the elections. We have been talking to politicians, to people, and we have been covering some issues also. So do follow and subscribe our channel for more reports from Goa, and do not forget to like and share this video. Thank you.